My name is Adisa, and I was there the year the ancestors refused to return. Even now, I still remember the chill that ran down my spine when it all happened. I was just a boy back then, barely 12, but no one in our village of Obajere could forget that festival. The Festival of Shadows was the most important event in our village, held every year on the night of the full moon in July. It was a time to honor the ancestors, those who had gone before us, but still watched over our lives. The festival was our way of showing gratitude, seeking their blessings, and maintaining harmony between the living and the dead. Preparation for the festival was no small task. For weeks, the women pounded yam, brewed palm wine, and prepared akara, suya, and jollof rice to feed the entire village. The men built the ceremonial shrine in the village square, a towering structure of woven palm fronds and sacred white cloth. It was decorated with cowrie shells and painted with red and black patterns to invite the ancestors. On the morning of the festival, the priest Baba Olani walked through the village with his staff, calling for silence. "Prepare your hearts," he said. "Speak no evil and think no ill. For tonight, we call upon those who protect us." That night, the entire village gathered in the square, dressed in white as was tradition. My mother tied a white gill around her head, and my father wore his best agbada. I was excited, as any boy would be, but I was also nervous. The stories about the ancestors were both fascinating and frightening. Baba Olani stood in the center of the shrine, holding a calabash filled with palm wine. He called out to the spirits, his voice booming in the silence. "O great ancestors, we, your children, call upon you. Come and eat with us. Come and bless us." The drummers began to play, their beats echoing into the night. The rhythm was hypnotic, and soon the dancers joined in, moving in unison, their feet kicking up dust under the moonlight. This was the moment we all waited for, the moment when the ancestors would show their presence. In past years, the signs were unmistakable. The fire in the shrine would flicker wildly, or the wind would carry the scent of incense through the square. Some said they even saw faint shadows moving among the crowd. But this year, there was nothing. The drumming faltered. The dancers hesitated. Baba Olani called out again, louder this time. "O ancestors, hear us. Accept our offerings and come." Still, nothing happened. The fire burned steadily and the air remained still. The silence grew heavy and the villagers began to murmur. "This has never happened before," my father whispered to my mother. Baba Olani looked troubled. He closed his eyes and began to chant in a low voice. After a long moment, he opened them and spoke. "The ancestors are displeased. They will not come." A gasp rippled through the crowd. People began to look around, whispering anxiously. "Displeased? But why? What have we done?" Baba Olani raised his hand for silence. "I will consult the oracle," he said. "But first we must cleanse ourselves. Go home tonight and reflect on your deeds. Tomorrow we will seek answers." The walk back home was eerie. The usual chatter after the festival was absent. Even the night felt different, darker, quieter. My mother clutched my hand tightly, and I could feel the tension in her grip. The next day, Baba Olani called the elders to the shrine. I wasn't allowed to join them, but I overheard the conversations from behind the tree where I was hiding. "The oracle has spoken," Baba Olani announced. "The ancestors are angry because we have forgotten our ways. Someone among us has disrespected the old traditions." The elders began to argue, each defending their families. Who could have done such a thing? What tradition had been broken? That evening, Baba Olani gathered the entire village. He performed a ritual to seek guidance, sprinkling white chalk on the ground and casting kola nuts. When he rose, his face was grave. "The ancestors demand restitution," he said. "There is a boy among us who must go to the sacred forest and offer an apology." The crowd fell silent. The sacred forest was forbidden. No one entered unless they were prepared to face the spirits. Baba Olanie's gaze fell on me. "Adisa," he said, his voice calm but firm. "The ancestors have chosen you." I froze. "Me? Why me?" I looked at my parents, who were as shocked as I was. But no one could argue with Baba Olanie. The ancestors' will was final. The next morning, I was prepared for the journey. Baba Olanie handed me a small bundle of offerings: kola nuts, palm oil, and a white cloth. "Do not speak to anyone in the forest," he warned. "Place these at the base of the tallest Iroko tree and speak from your heart. If the ancestors forgive us, they will show a sign." With trembling hands, I stepped into the forest. The air was thick and cool, and the sounds of birds and insects seemed distant. Every rustle of leaves made me jump. When I reached the Iroko tree, I knelt and placed the offerings on the ground. I closed my eyes and spoke, my voice shaking. "Great ancestors, I am Adisa, your child. Forgive us for any wrongs we have done. We honor you and seek your blessings. Please return to us." For a moment there was silence. Then a sudden breeze swept through the forest, carrying the scent of incense. The leaves of the Iroko tree rustled, though no other trees moved. I opened my eyes and saw a faint glow at the base of the tree. I ran back to the village, my heart pounding. When I told Baba Olanie what I had seen, he smiled. "The ancestors have forgiven us," he said. That night, we held the Festival of Shadows again. This time, the fire flickered wildly, and the wind carried the scent of incense. Shadows danced among the crowd, and the drummers played until dawn.